Ladies and gentlemen, we'll get started, I think. Everybody right? We would like to acknowledge this land that we meet on today as the traditional lands of the Gawler people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Gawler people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Gawler people today. And I'd like to especially welcome Richard Browning, who's come to talk to us. And what's been suggested is that after we've had the confirmation of the minutes on our agenda, we break from formal meeting procedure and give Richard some time to talk to us and for us to have a discussion with him. So everybody's present. It's lovely. No apologies. Are there any motions for granting of leave of absence? No? No leaves of absence? No non-attendance? Has anyone got a declaration of interest to make? No. Would someone like to confirm the minutes of the meeting of the 12th of November? Moved Karen, seconded Paul. Any discussion? Those in favour, please show. Against? Carried. Would someone like to move that we go out of meeting procedure? Helen, seconded by Diane. Any discussion? Those in favour, please show. Carried. Richard, welcome.
Yes. Okay. Let's say something. Oh, can you hear me? Good. Yeah, so Richard Browning, I'm an exhibition designer, and I work with Jacinta on Fire the Cannon exhibition that's downstairs. But generally, I do exhibitions throughout South Australia. So I work for Carrick Hill, just picked up another project working at Monarto Zoo, doing their education centre, but the Cedars in Harndorf, and there's a touring exhibition at the moment on Hans Heissen, which is going around the state. It's off to Kangaroo Island next week, and are we allowed to say that potentially we're going to have this next year? Anyway, so yeah. So I designed that, and I'm kind of like in the kind of moving that around. I'm actually transport person behind that, so I do a bit of everything. Other kind of areas that I cover, it's just on the historical side, on the science side, so any kind of exhibition that works in places like this, in civic centres, but I work in smaller regional museums like Tea Tree Gully, Strathalbyn Museum, and various other kind of smaller museums and National Trust, and work with the History Trust. And so I'm kind of covering the whole kind of historical display side of exhibitions. Anyway, so Jacinta asked me to come and talk to you a little bit about the next exhibition that's going to be early next year, which is on food production in the Gawler region. So really what I want to get from you guys is, I've got a little bit of background about there's been agriculture in producing you know, wheat and crops and things like that, and then the whole mill and preparation side of it. And so one of the areas that we'll concentrate on that, but I want to kind of take the process before white colonisation and talk about the Aboriginal side of how they managed the land, how they had food production, and investigate that area, and actually sort of make visitors quite aware of this is a, you know, a way where food production happened. Then going through the kind of the agriculture industrial side of it, but also concentrate on food production in the home and how that changed through the eras from the, you know, the 1850s where you're producing all your own food to the 1970s where we have all modern technology and allow people to go out into the environment to do work, and then bring it up to date with coming back to home delivery and ordering food online. So these are the kind of areas that I'm thinking of. It's still early days in the construction and design of the exhibition, so it'd be great to get your kind of feedback or areas that you would like think that's important to cover within this exhibition. Just to kind of like a few areas that I'd like to kind of make you aware of, that we usually have a bit more time to put this kind of exhibition together, and I know it's planned for mid-February, which is not leaving us an awful lot of time to do anything really in depth, but I'll do my best and my suppliers to see if we can, pull something fabulous together. So it'd be great to get some input from you guys to see what you were thinking within food production in the Gawler area, and I can incorporate that into what potentially we're doing.
Thanks, Richard. When you talk about food production in the home, are you talking about the role of women and cooking, or are you not talking about that?
Certainly, yes, the food production side of it. And I was just throwing some ideas around with Jacinta about how the amount of time that women used to spend in the kitchen. You used to grow your own food, you used to prepare it yourself. You have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to light your fire and that kind of thing. How that changed as technology advanced, and being able to just kind of show that and demonstrate how women had a lot more freedom as technology advanced and society changed.
Paul?
Whether we all saw the Annabelle Crabb series on the ABC, but didn't that cover off on a lot of that whole process that from the 18 whatever right through? Yeah. So do we need to replicate that or not? Because it sounds like you'd be replicating what she did in that series. Yeah, back in time for dinner. It actually started from 18 whatever. Yeah. From Federation through.
Went through the decades.
Yeah, it went through the decades. So, no, it was basically on food, basically. Yeah.
Anyone? Sorry. Margaret?
We're going to be specifically talking about the Gawler area, though, aren't we?
Helen?
And I guess that's I like the idea very much. I thought we were only going up to 1950 though. Are we extending?
So we're looking for feedback from the committee about how far to take the exhibition. Richard, and I'll let him explain, has some theories regarding audience development and bookending the exhibition, and that would bring it up to the current day, and our move back to sustainability, council's commitment to climate change, and possibly bringing a little bit that in. So that's a thought Richard had about that. So I'm keen for feedback on that.
Yeah, no.
So perhaps Richard could explain that.
I guess my other point, just sorry to jump in before you, Richard, is I'd love to see it connected to how Gawler as a regional centre develops. So we were having a chat earlier with Margaret about, we started off as being, everyone was growing the wheat in our area, then the mills come, and then my particular interest is the confectionery. From the mills, they start to grow the malt, which leads to the breweries, the cordials, the confectionery. And the next stage, it actually shows the food production in a way, shows Gawler changing and developing and maturing, I guess, as a regional centre, which is a microcosm of the state as well. So it's actually how Gawler is changing from being, I think we were called the grain centre initially, but then we start to, and it goes through as into this century where we start changing from being, we grow into a dormitory suburb as women get more free time, or start to work outside the home is more. Yes, as another woman, I haven't noticed the free time thing.
Diane?
We also have our organic farmer here in Gawler, so we have big production down there as well.
And that continues. We've been growing stuff here all the way through from Duffield and before Duffield in that area, particularly that Gawler River area, very productive. So the fruit trees that Graham's got have been in that area for a long time.
Karen?
I've actually brought in my husband's grandmother's Modern Athens cookbook, which is a working document. It's Jacinta, I know you're appalled, but
That's what Terry cooks all your teas.
how did you know?
I guess.
So I'm really interested in the Gawler experience, people in the 20s, when this was produced, which was 1927, people were growing things in their backyard and selling them to survive. And I know that because Terry's uncle, he's got him on a tape talking about how they used their backyard to sell fruit, to get extra cash because it was the Depression. So that would be really good to see people's backyard gardens and food production, but also the role of women. Again, when we talk about food production, it often becomes a discussion around what men did. So I'm always really keen to hear and see that women had an important role as well, and particularly around food production. So that's just my thoughts on it.
Well, to continue the diversity, if you remember, and I think Adrian's got some information on this, there was a Chinese market gardener on Goose Island. So we've got that food production happening as well.
I'd just like to contribute something from the chair, if I may. Two things about social implications of food management and food growing. One is the impact of European farming on Gawler farming, and I think that's really important. For those of you who've read Bruce Pascoe's Dark Emu, I think that's a very important thing that we should handle. And the other is the social impact of social isolation on women who had to stay at home in order to provide meals for their families. They didn't have cafes and takeaways and stuff. And you only have to look at this sort of recorded history of Gawler to know how out of the scene they were socially. And a lot of that's down to the fact that they were the food growers, food preparers and so on. So I think that that's two important social impact issues about food management that we should probably address. Deborah.
I'm just wondering if this is starting to sound a bit big. So I'm wondering if it's worthwhile trying to consider how do we condense this? What are the main points? What are the most important things? Because otherwise it's going to be lost to the audience, I think.
Margaret.
That's Richard's job.
Here.
Yeah, sure. I think we throw the ideas in and you make sense of it. I just think there's so much to talk about. We've only got a little room, but we've been able to pack in a lot of stuff in the two exhibitions that we've had of corners and this and that, and it actually creates a really lovely texture. So, that's where you come in, Richard, to go, okay, what works here? I'm not sure if, from the beginning to present day is too much. I'm not quite sure, but once you do the storyboard, it might just jump out and it might sort of make sense. But diversity is really important. The role of women is really important because we've had, again, and I do go on about this, but we have had a long history of not recognising or acknowledging the role of women. So, but I agree with you, Margaret, that's Richard's job.
Helen.
It might be because I'm the librarian, but maybe we have a reading list for people to go on, or something that says, here's a little bit about the Chinese market gardener, and if you want more, go here. Here's a little bit about something else. So maybe that's a follow-up, but I'm not quite sure. I'm just going to leave that with Jacinta as an idea. But I just think that means that somebody getting interested in that particular thing can go on and do some more reading.
Yeah. Richard, do you want to say something?
Just to respond to you, absolutely, this is a huge topic. And so I do agree with you on two areas that we should focus on. Definitely the role of women in one, and also the focus on the Gawler region about what we're doing. And I think, from my point of view, I'm gathering information at this stage. And so, this is part of the process. And thank you for allowing me to kind of I will make some recommendations about it. And one of the things that I concentrate on is the visitor experience. And so, you know, sometimes, you know, the people that are involved in it get too close to it and they think we need to say this, we need to say this, we need to say this. So I try and kind of tease out the best stories, and the best stories come from whether we have objects, for example, like your lovely cookery books, and trying to make a way to appealing to visitors. So one of the ideas that I came up with was the cookery books look beautiful and they're old and something like that, but how are the visitors going to kind of interact with it? So my idea is to bring the cookery books to life by potentially filming a cookery show, so that we get somebody that recreates some of those recipes in there. We film it, we put it onto a vintage style television or something like that, and people can actually see people producing these meals. And so it just brings that something like a... So it brings something like that to life. You've got the real object, and then you can actually see how it's produced. And so this is a view that I come from my experience and expertise, is to say, right, these are the stories, these are the best ones that are going to have impact. What imagery have we got? What we can use audio, anything, interactivity, quizzes and things like that. So as I said, at this stage, I'm kind of gathering information, seeing what's available, and just sort of like, and then obviously being limited with the space and time and budget to what we can do within those kind of parameters.
Something that involves children too would be great for schools to bring on a spit. Well, you know, why not? But if there's some hands-on thing, interactive thing that they can be involved in, it'd be great.
Yeah, one of the areas that we're looking at was talking about the agriculture thing, and I don't know if you guys remember that, you know, when you used to make farms with small animals and things like that, you know, potentially we could make something like that to say, you know, this is a crop rotation. And so there's always something educational side of it, but there's also a play side of it, you know, that you can build your own farmyard kind of thing.
Okay.
Dairying was another thing that was done in backyards. The size of the blocks here, they would have 1 or 2 cows, and that provided not only for themselves, but an income. I'm talking early days, that sort of gradually, and the dairies gradually moved out. But there was a dairy in Moore Street. Well, yes. Yeah.
That's right.
Sorry, where the Williston Oval is now.
That's recorded
around
in
there.
the Significant Women's
That was
Book.
and then there's the bakeries as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it go back to Deb's point about, but
It's bigger, but yes.
yeah.
But sometimes you can put that into a small egg cup rather than have it in a bowl.
But you could almost choose which of these fruits is grown, you know, which of these foods have been grown in Gawler. You could have a whole table and, you know, which of these were grown in Gawler. It could end up being all of them, to be quite honest. We've grown everything from flax to tobacco to all citrus fruits to, you know, whatever.
We've also got, and there's an ad for the Hewitt Butcher family, and the original 1930s home movies of carting that meat through the main street of Gawler in a horse and cart. We've actually got that from the Hatcher family. And that's exquisite footage that you don't normally see, because I think Arthur Hewitt was one of the first that had a movie camera. So we do have access. So that's, I mean, is it food? Well, it's, you know, growing sheep and butchering and, you know, the meat hanging, which was quite prominently done. But yeah, that's food production, I guess, isn't it?
Sorry, can you say that again? Who has that film?
We have it. We used it for the opening of the Civic Centre. We have quite a number. I think you've got that, David, somewhere. Yeah. I reckon it went up on the Gawler History website somewhere. They must have given it to Brian. But it is available, and there's actually some wonderful footage of this horse and cart and the butcher shop, because they had a butcher shop at the bottom of the street and the top of the street, and this horse and cart going down past the McKinley Monument. So that's quite exquisite. Yeah. And the sheep, they've got, that's Kangaroo Flat, but very connected to Gawler, and just farming.
Keeping food preserved as well, with cellars and things. Deb?
That brings in another dimension, which is the distribution and transport of food and how that sort of broadened out and then brought in, built the economy around here.
You're just adding extra stuff to it.
I actually stopped myself from saying, can you do something about smell?
Oh, yes, because the smell-o-vision. So we had a soap factory, we had a brewery, we had cows. I mean, down there on the bridge, the newly renovated, would have been putrid. I mean, the river was putrid. Yeah. I mean, or flax, the whatever they call it, when you do flax, you actually have to rot that. So the smell would, and the flies would have been, there you go, public health.
I'm just wondering if the Bunyip ran an article about this proposal for us to have an exhibition on this issue, if people had other stories we could use from in the general public.
I think that's an excellent idea.
Well, I might add to what we already know, Deborah. I'm just letting you know that. All right, I'm not adding anything.
No, but I know what the nuance of what you're saying is, trying to get the community to feel involved and contribute.
Sort of.
Yeah, we need to keep working on that.
Did you want to say something?
I just think also with that, there's always an opportunity for people to leave their memories in an exhibition, and that adds to our information going forward, like they've been doing currently with the little postcards. So we've got some lovely memories of the Institute building that will add to that story going forward.
Yeah, that's another one. Anybody else? Did you want any last comments, Richard, before we sort of go back to the meeting?
No, I think that's good. I think this is all valuable feedback that you're given, and I think I might have to come back through Jacinta and just sort of like get some more of that information. And I don't know what the thing is whether you want me to present some kind of concept ideas to this group, or you want to do that kind of thing in the future. But anyway, that's as the process develops, and then I can, build on what's said and then kind of make these kind of selections.
Yeah. Okay.
Just one final, in Light's planning of Gawler, where Coles Gawler is now is the site of the market on Light's plan. So that's actually quite important that there was an area, and that it still is a market effectively, but that's been, I guess it's been a continuous market since it was designed, which is also quite important, that Light's vision. Yeah.
It's interesting because my family,
Coles sales yard,
my family were out at Rosedale, and they used to come in, this is like 1901, little sockies, and sell eggs and rope to get the stuff that they needed to go back out to Rosedale. That's how they survived, really. They had their little farm and everything else.
Yeah.
That's how they got their cash.
And for every one of those, how many others were doing?
So that's what they do. They brought it into Gawler, sold it, and bought the material or whatever, and went back out again. Yeah, it's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about this because obviously you're all local people, and a lot of you have been here forever, kind of thing. These are or your generationally have. These are the stories that we want to get, because everybody will know somebody else in the vicinity, and they'll know those families. How can we kind of capture that information? And as Jacinta said, to get that feedback and those stories. I mean, it just becomes huge kind of thing in that way. But I think it's really important to just, to use stories like that in some way. And so if we can try and capture that, and I'll think of a way to actually kind of feed that back to, visitors that come in. And one of the things, I know you need to get on, but how do we spread this around to the surrounding areas? How do we get more people to come and see this exhibition? I mean, we don't need to answer this now, but I think it's something that we need to consider about, because I think it'll be an interesting exhibition, not just for local people.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much. Thank you for your input and your time. And we'll go back to meeting procedure. All right. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you. Item 6.1. I'll wait for Jacinta. So if anyone wants to have a chat about something while we wait for Jacinta to come back, feel free. Oh, here she's back. Okay. No, that's all right.
So as the committee is aware, we produce a work plan each year for the committee and part of what we do in the Cultural Heritage Centre. This is an opportunity to review the 2020 work plan and to present the committee with a draft 2021 work plan for your comments and input.
Right, Diane.
Through the chair, I'd just like to point out the date errors in it. Your calendar is 2020 and number 2, food exhibition opening. It starts on the 15th of January and it finishes on the 5th of January the same year. So they just need to be altered.
Anybody else wants to? Don't all speak at once. Well, if there's no discussion, would someone like to move acceptance of the recommendation, please? Diane, seconded by Helen. Any discussion? If not, those in favour, please show. Against, carried. And thank you, Jacinta, for preparing that for us. Right, moving on to 6.2, Draft Cultural Heritage Management Plan. Would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Chair. As the committee is aware, we've had a workshop. We presented some draft recommendations to the committee and gained feedback and refined those. We presented draft action plans associated with those recommendations and again took on the feedback and refined those. This is a further iteration of the document, which we hope has included everything and all the thoughts that were presented accurately as you had hoped to convey them to us. So we're looking for your feedback on this final version so that it can be presented to Council and we can start working on the 2021 actions for next year.
Any discussion? I've got a question, Jacinta, about the 2 pianos. You know, we had input from both gentlemen. What's the status of the caring for them in this management plan, and where does it come?
So through the chair, they're not specifically in the plan from memory. You'll have to forgive me, I haven't looked at it. However, it is our intention to get an additional report done on the Steinway. We're almost finished going through all of the records to collect all the information about the Steinway and the Beckstein. So that will be coming as an additional report to the committee early next year. As you know, the Beckstein will be removed from the Heritage Gallery into the reading room as the committee authorised. And so then we'll start bringing that information for you for your consideration as we then work through how best to either have the Beckstein in the collection, restore the Beckstein, store the Beckstein, or possibly deaccession the Beckstein. Not the Beckstein, I'm sorry, the Steinway.
And that would then be part of the...
Yes.
Yeah, I understand. Yes, Helen?
Congratulations. I think it presents really well. I love the fact that it's clear and straightforward and can be read by an external personal body, and I think it gives a very good overview of what we're trying to achieve. As you say, behind each one of those recommendations is a swathe of work or even more details. So I just think it gives us the way forward for the next couple of years, few years, 2 years, 3 years. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. I think you've captured all of the stuff that we've discussed. So my only question would be, how will we report back on it?
So through the chair, for the vast majority of these recommendations, in the first instance, they'll come to the committee as a report, and then we will work through them from there. A couple of them are procedural. There was a procedure for digitising part of the collection. I'm very happy to present that to the committee, but that's an operational procedure as well. But the vast majority is, and you'll notice that in the action plan, that it's the committee working with staff, and that will be in a report initially, and then we'll move forward from there, taking on board the committee's recommendations on how best to proceed.
I particularly like tables, something along like this. You know, I think just so we get a sense of what we're working on, what we've completed, and what we're still to might be useful. There's a number of ways that can happen. It just gives us, over the next couple of years, we can sense what we have tackled and what we're still to come to. Paul.
There was a comment about digitalisation, etc., and there was a comment about the Sky Trust program. That was in here, wasn't it? So, was that in here? I know, it was something. No, what was the doc? How? No, it was. I can't find it here. It was something to do with the way we collect our documents in council. What? Sky Trust? Trim. Sorry, yeah. There was an issue. There's some problems with Trim. Did it say or not? Trim.
So through the chair, most of the documents in council go into Trim, and then they become, a lot of those then go down to state records in the physical copy. The heritage collection is not in Trim. We're keeping that on a separate drive. So eHive is our catalogue, that's in the cloud. And so that's where we're storing the information. It's not going into the council's record management system.
Anyone else? No? If not, someone move the acceptance of the management plan. Karen, seconded Deborah. Any further discussion? If not, those in favour, please show. Against, carried unanimously. And thanks again for a great job. Right. 6.3, request for permission to publish photos. Mind boggles.
So thank you, Chair. It was an interesting request. So in the collection is a photo album of the production of HMS Pinafore from 1887, I think from memory, that was held in the Institute. Those photographs are not in the public domain, and a relative of Mr. Krantz came and asked if she could have access to those photographs for a published document. It is a limited run, but it will be a published document. And as those photographs are not in the public domain, we've brought this to the committee for their feedback on that respect. Staff do help family historians in a lot of different areas, and we do provide other photographs, our copies of other photographs that are in the public domain at a charge, but these ones aren't there. So the photograph, while there's no copyright in the photograph, there is copyright in the image that staff have taken of that photograph, and that belongs to council. So it's a question for the committee's recommendation to council about allowing that.
Thank you. Karen?
I do have some trouble providing approval for this. One of the challenges of the heritage collection before we invested resource and both financial and human resource to really protect this collection for the community was to guard against people publishing. I think it's okay for us to publish, but I'd just have some reservations about allowing others to publish something that's not in the public domain. I do have a problem with that. I'm sorry. You do lose control of that, in my humble opinion. But That's just my thoughts.
Helen?
I have a different point of view. I think there's a formal process they've got to ask. We've got to verify whether we're going to give permission. They're paying for it. The only other thing I'd like to see is that they donate at least one copy of their published work back to the collection so that we have we know that it's been done and acknowledged. So I think I'd like to see that in there as well. We are set up as a research. We have to allow this material to go back out in a controlled way, back out into the community. In a way, it will help the status of this collection if that is allowed, because a lot of it's escaped, as you say, unauthorised, but we've not had any, sometimes, well, there's certainly been no financial recompense and often not proper acknowledgement from where it's come. But this is a process for allowing that, so I'm pleased to support it.
Paul?
Yeah, look, I'm pleased to support it as well. I agree with Helen. In this case, there's a good process and they are paying for it. And in particular, it's a family publication. I think it'll essentially stay within the family. And the fact that also a copy goes to the State Library, I think that's very good as well. So I'll be happy to support this motion.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'm assuming that there's a protocol that people sign when they, and that means that you've got some legal comeback if that right has been abused.
Through the chair, yes, there is.
Okay, thank you. Okay, would someone like to move the acceptance of this request?
I'm happy to move it, but I'd like to put a new clause in there that says something along the lines of a copy of the...
So through the chair, if I may,
Yes,
picking up
certainly.
on your commentary, perhaps B could be changed to permission is limited to initial print run of 11 copies
Yes,
for family members, 1 copy for the State Library and 1 for the Gawler Heritage Collection.
that would be excellent.
Easy
Thank you.
peasy. Yeah, that's a good one.
On that basis, I'm happy to move the first recommendation.
All right, so people are clear about that addendum to B, +1 for the Gawler Cultural Heritage Collection, and the number changed from 10 to 11, from 10 to 11. Okay, so Helen's moved it, seconded by Paul. Any further discussion? If not, those in favour, please show. Against, carried. Thank you once again, Jacinta, and those of you discussing it. Right, items listed for discussion 7.1. Got any?
So through the chair, it's only noting the updated motion list in the agenda.
Yeah, okay. So everyone's got a copy of that? Any queries or discussion on them? Yes, Karen?
Just when will we see the draft or the storyboard for the upcoming exhibition? And I think that should stay on here as a standing item, the exhibition.
So through the chair, Richard hasn't given a timeline. I will give that sooner. I will have to distribute it by email because the committee is not meeting until February. So if everyone's happy, I'll do that. And we could potentially come in together and discuss it if you feel that that's the need, or have another meeting with Richard. I'm very happy to organise that. But he wanted to come tonight to hear your thoughts. He's going to go back and devise a timeline, and then I'll have more clarity around that at that time.
And in relation to Karen's comment about it going onto the agenda, do we have to formally do that, or is it just, no? Okay, so that'll automatically happen. Okay, good. Any further discussion on this item?
I just support what the Mayor said. I'd really like to keep in contact and allow him to continue that discussion with us. I just think that's really valuable and reassuring. And it feels like we are having some ongoing input, so I think that would be excellent.
Karen?
I think it'd be worth having another workshop on future exhibition ideas. We've had one, but I think it'd be good to revisit that. So maybe that should be on items listed for discussion at future meetings, maybe. Yeah. I don't know if we need a motion about a workshop or no. Okay.
All right. Anything else? Have we got a seconder? Accepting that. Thank you, Di. Any further discussion? If not, those in favour, please show. Thank you. All right. Are there any questions without notice? Yes, Diane.
I'm just wondering how the firing the cannon how that exhibition has gone.
Through the chair, we're averaging around between 101 and 130 visitors a week.
That's great, isn't it? Wonderful.
Given the COVID situation, absolutely.
I think given the COVID situation and people's concern about being out and about, they are still coming and they are still visiting the exhibition. So we're getting, we're getting lots of feedback on our visitor feedback form, and also with, as I said, those little postcards. Postcards have been very popular.
Very good. Deborah.
I was just going to ask what the demographics was of the people visiting.
Through the chair, we don't collect any information on demographics. We don't have the staff resourcing to be in there and ask those questions. So I really don't know, I'm sorry.
Deborah, do you want to follow up? Yes.
So you don't get a postcode from the people?
Through the chair, we get a postcode. We ask for a postcode. Occasionally we get it. So we have some idea. Interestingly enough, visitors from overseas are very happy to leave their information, but there's a lot of blanks in that collection space.
Sorry, Diane.
You would get a lot of people in there when there was, like I was in there this week with 2 people from Mount Barker, and you know, we were the only ones in there, so there was nobody asking for a postcode. So that would happen a lot, I would imagine, because you don't have the staff resources to have somebody there all the time.
Can I ask also, I believe that we've, now that we've built it, people are coming and there's been some interesting donations perhaps to the collection, would you?
So through the chair, we are assembling a list of items that have been donated to the collection for the February meeting that fall under the parameters of needing to come to the committee for authorisation, but they're just interesting additions to the collection. So yes, there have been some very worthwhile additions coming from community, which is very pleasing to see.
Exciting.
From my point of view, I think with the second exhibition and a few other things happening, the community, and we've built up enough of a reputation now that people are aware that it is a place. So it's great. That's really, in this timeline, to get that happening, and word of mouth and publicity. So that's really good. Well done.
It's also very pleasing to see that the signage out the front is starting to happen. I'm very, very pleased about that. That's good. It's a good step, isn't it, in the right direction? Yeah.
Just a question without any warning. The cafe, I understand now there's been a discussion, a decision. David, I know it's outside the realm. Is there some news on the reactivation of that space, perhaps?
So through the chair, there hasn't really been any formal discussion at this point in time at council. So there's a report going up to next week's meeting, which is a noting report only that the cafe operators have advised formally that they're not wanting to renew contracts or reopen. So that's where it's at the moment. We'll see where council takes that as a result, and kick off in the new year, hopefully, with options around that space. So there's nothing formal yet from council. Yeah.
Other than a general feeling that it needs to be reactivated with something? Okay.
Can I just suggest that we don't minute that discussion, please? No, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Sarah. Great. Di?
My question is so that we can tell Councillor Samble when's the collection box, when's the pay wave
When
coming?
the what? Sorry, when the what?
Councillor Samble, Mayor, Deputy Mayor,
Yeah.
he's always asking about the pay wave. When's the pay wave coming?
Oh, right. Okay, fair enough.
So through the chair, it's in train, and it is my intention to have the Deputy Mayor the first person to activate it.
And I think we should get a photo of it. Okay, is there any other motions on notice? If not, I'll close the meeting and wish you all a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. If I don't see you, I'm sure I'll see some of you before then, but if not, enjoy the break and with your loved ones. Oh, here we go. There we go. See, I've closed the meeting. It's typical, isn't it? I've got the brains trust around the table.